Now, I'm hoping I can get away with this one without the seagulls going nuts above my head. They've nested. We've got 3 little offspring running around on the roof. I have to be careful with the window because they try and get in. And yeah, so they've stopped shouting. So hopefully they'll stay that way, but we'll see what happens. Right, now this video. I found this one and it's entitled, let me just pull up the title, NLP, Herd Mentality and Why Cancer is Not a Real Disease. And I thought I found myself a soulmate. I found someone who's talking about the same stuff. This will be, and it's not. This is a guy who, well, he's an NLPer. I don't want to pick on him, as always. What I want to do is actually deconstruct the reality of where he's coming from. The reason being is that what he portrays here, what he claims, the things he's saying, are pretty much representative of what the alternative therapy community, whether they're NLPers or all the others, all the way through to crystal healers, they all seem to have the same ongoing narrative. And what I want to do is to basically deconstruct that. Why is it that people believe those things? Why do so many people make the same claims? In the face of all the evidence, what is going on here? We have top-level NLPers. We actually have the co-creators themselves claiming that they can heal all sorts of manner of illnesses themselves, which is ironic considering some of their backgrounds and health issues themselves. And I find this kind of cognitive dissonance interesting as to what is it? Why are people able to say, I can cure disease, and when I get ill, I recover very, very quickly? Well, why do you get ill in the first place if your immune system is so good? And this seems to be the crux of it. The current narrative is all about the immune system, and that cancer is a failure of the immune system. It isn't, but that seems to be the narrative. And therefore, if we can adjust the immune system by alleviating stress and having positive mindsets and boost the immune system, blah, 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 then surely we can cure disease. And yet, how many alphabet therapists, new agers across the spectrum of all the different therapies, alternative communities, how many people die from horrible diseases prematurely, and they get completely missed from the narrative? We don't talk about the dead ones. We only talk about the ones who recover. And that seems to be an important detail. Anyway, I'll go over to this particular video. It's 8 minutes in total. I'll skip bits of it. What I don't want to do is edit it too much so it misrepresents what this chap is saying. I don't know him at all, never met him. This is the only video of his I've seen. I'm looking at him. It looks like he's probably does a lot of work out on health, physical health stuff. So he may well be quite educated. I don't know. I may well check him out later on. So let's just go to the video and let's see what he's got to say.
What's up, guys? In this video, I am going to talk about something that is probably a sensitive subject for a lot of people, and it might be an unpopular video. However, I still think that it's something that needs to be said. We're going to talk about cancer and what cancer is, and is it a fake disease, right? Yes, it is. Spoiler alert. Okay, so basically what do I mean by cancer being a fake disease? All right, well, back in the day, I used to be very interested in something called NLP, right? Neuro-linguistic programming, right? I was into sales, and NLP is all about like the science of communication. And Tony Robbins, he started out doing NLP, which is why a lot of people say he's such an effective communicator, because he studied all this stuff and he applies it to like a more mainstream audience. Anyway, back when I was like super into it, there was a small group of medical doctors who looked at NLP and tried to apply it to medicine. And one of the things that I remembered from it is that they said, don't look at cancer as a thing, right? There's something in NLP.
Now, this is one of the most common things that we see. The unnamed healthcare professionals. There's a small group of them, and they were looking. Who are these people? Let's have some names. Did they publish anything? How specifically, let's apply some NLP to this. How specifically did this gentleman come across them? In fact, is there any evidence for any of this actually being true? Or is it just a story that someone has told him that in turn someone told them and someone told them and so forth? One of the things I became very familiar with on NLP type events, not just the NLP world, but other alphabet therapy, personal development type stuff, especially around sort of the more coaching end of stuff where people are attending the course in order to acquire certification or training to go out and see clients themselves. there's always the story that goes around the group every break time in every group I've ever attended, where that's the motif. The guy who did the training last year or 2 years ago, who's got his first six-figure paying client. Because, there's people out there who'll pay 100,000 upwards to have a session with a coach, because that's what really rich people do. They pay life coaches and NLPers six figures. Now, I've heard that story so many times. When I then started going to business networking groups, when I was living in Chichester, I spent a year going to every business networking group I could find, because I wanted to understand, what are these groups? Is there any benefit to me to doing that? What can I learn from the groups? What I discovered in going to those is actually there's very little benefit. What's actually happening is everyone there is trying to turn everyone else into a customer, and then hoping everyone else is going to build a referral network for them. And everyone is just building their network. When I asked people, how much money are you making from doing all these networking things? Well, I'm still building my network. That was the narrative that people used to give. Even there was always the apocryphal story about the person who used to be a member here, but they've gone away and now they're making six-figure clients. These stories go round and round and round. Now, this thing about doctors doing this stuff with NLP, looking to apply NLP to medicine, really? Now, I used to work in Southampton General Hospital, which at the time was one of the biggest hospitals in the country. And it was massive. And the mind-boggling number of staff that worked there across all the different multidisciplinary disciplines, different professions that work in a hospital, and then the application within all the different departments. You have such a diverse range of people interested in everything. At one end of the spectrum, you're going to find people who are nurses, some even doctors, who believe in their crystals, all the way through to the other end, who are deep meditators. They go off into the Himalayas and that kind of stuff, and then everything in between. You find such a diverse range of people with different interests, beliefs, and values, and so forth. So it's quite a wonderful melting pot of different things. So to find people interested in certain alternatives within medicine is perfectly normal. I ran my hypnosis and NLP group at Southampton General Hospital for, I think, probably 2 to 3 years. And we had all sorts of people from the building, staff in the building, come and join, but most people were coming in from outside. And so, again, there's lots of interest. Now, just because someone's doing that doesn't make it in any way official. I used to work with a senior nurse in psychiatry who is now a homeopath. Now, homeopathy is the biggest crock of rubbish ever, in that it's just belief, it's just faith healing with little bottles of really expensive distilled water. But it doesn't matter. But that doesn't validate homeopathy, because we have somebody who was a senior nurse, albeit in psychiatry, who now works in homeopathy. The apocryphal nature of it is there's never a name. There's never a research paper. There's never an actual thing to demonstrate the thing they're talking about. These are just the apocryphal stories that support it. The amount of people that have healed their cancer because of their alphabet therapy, alternative therapy. And yet, if you investigate, they've had all the other orthodox treatments alongside that. Or they had the alternative alongside their orthodox treatment. But the attribution is always made elsewhere. And these things, the details get lost, the details get missed, because it doesn't support the narrative that people are trying to push. And that is exactly what's happening here. And that is endemic in the NLP world. Now, I thought the NLP was about accurate communication. It was about basically getting to the truth. And yet, and being precise, have precision with people's reasoning and thinking. What I'm seeing going on with NLP generally is woolly, absolute shambolic thinking, which everything becomes overgeneralized, everything becomes filtered to fit a supportive narrative. And I think that is exactly what we're seeing here.
Called a nominalization. It's actually from linguistics, right? A nominalization means that you are giving something a name, right? Something that does not have a name. You're turning a verb into a noun, right? You're creating a thing from an action. Right, a very simple example would be the act of running, right? There is no running. There's no, I can't pick up a running, right? A nominalization is anything that you cannot put into a wheelbarrow, right? Is a simple way of thinking of it. Now, I know what you're thinking. Well, I can take cancer and I can put it into a wheelbarrow, right? You've got the tumor or whatever. It's disgusting and it's a physical thing, right? But what these doctors said, and it kind of changed my thought process towards illness at the time a lot, is that they said, don't say I have cancer or Bob has cancer or whatever. Say that Bob's body is cancering, right? They denominalized it and turned turned cancer, the thing, into a process that your body is going through, right?
That absolutely never happened. I can be certain of it. I'm almost. Did everyone then get up and give a round of applause? Everyone started clapping. No way did a group of doctors say, what you need to do is denominalize cancer. You don't have cancer, you are cancering. Let's ignore his running example as a normalization. Cancer is a label. It could be argued it's a normalization. But cancer itself is a dynamic process. It's an interactive process between body, environment, body in itself, and components within the biology of the body. And so therefore, you're cancering. Now, it doesn't matter how we label. In days of old, people never said the word cancer. They used to go, or the C word, because people would never actually say it. And there was a very popular belief, and this was actually normal within medicine, but you have to go back about 100 years for this. Never give the patient the terminal diagnosis because they'll die from shock. And so you had this bizarre thing where the whole family would know that the person had a terminal diagnosis. Everyone knew except the patient. And that seemed to be a bit of a value that was quite popular back in the day. We moved way beyond that, but see, now there's treatments, and that's the key thing. There was a time when these terminal diseases were terminal very, very quickly, simply because there was very little that could be done in terms of both supporting ongoing life and health, but also in combating the actual disorder in the first place. Cancering. I don't have flu, I'm fluing. I don't have a cold, I'm colding. I haven't got herpes, I'm herpesing. Yeah, that's the logic we've got here, as though somehow to turn it back to a process somehow affects, I'm going to guess, something in the psychology, therefore something in the immune system. I can predict that's what this is going to turn into.
Don't say I am obese, say I am obesing, right? Don't say I am poor, say I am pouring. Right? Now that doesn't make sense grammatically in English, but if I don't know how to say it, if you just accept that as a possible definition for how things could be, then it'll allow you to make certain decisions that you wouldn't be able to make if you didn't have that, as...
Now this is the bit that disturbs me quite a lot. It would enable you to make different decisions. The implication being that I have cancer is a decision about having cancer, as opposed to I am cancering, which is a process. Now, there's something else that he's missed, and I see this is so common amongst NLPers, therapists, all the alternative therapies generally. The inability to differentiate between behavior and identity. So I have cancer is possession. I and have, and there's this thing called cancer. I am cancering is much more into an identity process. And so he's not really aware of this, I'm guessing. But to say I am cancering is a weird thing. I am doing cancering, maybe. This is just stupid wordplay. It changes absolutely nothing. But if the wordplay is that important, then it's important to pay attention to what the wordplay is actually doing in terms of moving from behavior to identity. I don't believe it's important whatsoever in terms of affecting the process. This gentleman appears to, and yet he's unaware of what else he is doing with his wordplay.
A possibility. Confusing, I know, but basically what I mean is that if you think of cancer not necessarily as a thing, and you think of it as a process that your body goes through, then all you have to do is do things that will stop the process, right? Now, a lot of people, the cancer industry is huge, right? And it's a very emotionally charged issue. People get cancer. It's almost like fat acceptance, to be honest with you. It's very similar, right? People get cancer, and all of a sudden they're heroes, right? You have breast cancer as a woman, you get a little pink ribbon, right? Men don't get a ribbon for testicular cancer. Why are women getting...
There is so much to unpack here. I don't know even where to start, and I'll probably lose some of the threads as I start rambling on. To compare cancer and the kind of celebration that we see of the heroism of people who actually overcome cancer, people who are successfully treated with cancer, tends to be this thing. We see some heroism of people who are basically terminal. There's been a lady in the British media a lot recently with bowel cancer who's done an awful lot in terms of blogging and raising awareness and raising funds and charity stuff and all the rest of it, who is terminal. There's no possibility of her survival. But actually, she's done a lot. So she's been held up to be a heroine, not because she's got cancer, but because basically she's attractive, she's got the smile, she's got an upbeat attitude, and people admire that in the face of people's greatest fear. And so that triggers a certain thing in people. But hero worship of the disease itself and people with the disease, he needs to go to an oncology unit. In fact, any hospital unit where they have cancer patients. I think he might change his mind on that. And that the pink ribbon is not an award. This is not a qualification. You've succeeded. You've got your pink ribbon. But you've got your testicle cancer, you don't get it. No, that is absolutely not how these things work. And to be comparing the two is a bit weird. But then also to be comparing it to the fat acceptance movement. Now, putting the fat industry aside, because there's a lot of stuff in there, and that could be a whole set of videos in itself, to be honest. The cancer industry. He goes on to say how lucrative the cancer industry is. Now, that's a pejorative. The vast majority of people employed in the treatment and management of cancer are healthcare professionals who are usually underpaid, massively overworked, and are doing their best to try and cure the patient. One of the narratives within this whole cancer industry stuff that comes from the alternative therapy scene is that everyone is corrupt. No one wants to create cures. They only want to create patients. So it's better to keep the person with the disease than to cure the disease. And then you only have to look at, okay, so tell us about things like smallpox. Tell us about things like the old epidemic diseases that used to kill people en masse, that have been largely eliminated from human societies as a result of very effective medical treatments. And big pharma, that's the other pejorative that's always used, big pharma. Now, there's no doubt that there is a lot of business interests in these large pharmaceutical organizations at the top because they need to make money. That's why they exist. They're there as a business. But the actual people who are largely employed are doing their best to actually both further their own career, but also find the cure. Anyone who finds a cure for something has got their entire future assured, as has the drug company that has produced it. There is a very, very good book, which I will put up on the screen in the edit, which would tell you about the corruptions that occur within the pharmaceutical and medical industries, and absolutely well worth getting a copy of and reading. None of it, this is written by a medical doctor, himself quite an irritant to the medical profession, but also a very strong skeptic over the complementary therapy scene. I would highly recommend you read that book. It's quite big. Go through it. It gives you every detail you could possibly need to know, and the realities as opposed to the New Age conspiracy theories that seem to be promulgated. So the cancer industry itself is not really an industry. That's because there is no one cancer. Cancer is a collective umbrella under which there are dozens and dozens and dozens of different syndromes, disorders, and diseases, all collectively referred to as cancer. The use of the pejorative language is the other thing that is used a lot when people are basically bigging up their own therapeutic process that they believe can cure the disorder or the disease, and whilst denigrating the orthodox medicine that actually is used, sometimes effectively, to treat this disease. Here's Andy in the edit. I was quite right. I would lose some of the threads in my ranting. Cancer is a process. I am cancering. As therefore, all you need to do is interrupt the process. He doesn't go on to actually explain what he means by interrupting the process. I'm guessing by changing your thought processes, changing your beliefs, all that kind of absolute twaddle. But if all you need to do is interrupt the process, what does he think cancer treatment, radiotherapy, chemotherapy, and all the other treatments that are given, what does he think they are doing in terms of the process? Contributing to it? Probably not.
Ribbons for getting breast cancer. Now, it sucks. Obviously, I wouldn't wish this on anyone. I think cancer is a terrible thing, especially if you're a woman. You get your, boobies chopped off. It's awful. But I think that, and this is going to get a little conspiracy theory on the whole thing right now, but I think that because the cancer industry is such a massive and profitable industry, especially the cancer treatment industry, it's the people who provide the treatment, the industries that provide the treatment, are incentivized to not find a cure for the disease, right? They're incentivized to find a treatment, which is a complaint that you'll commonly hear in the pharmaceutical industry, of which cancer treatment is a part, is that it benefits the pharmaceutical corporations to keep people sick and not have them cured. And
there we have it. So essentially, the whole industry is keeping people sick. Now, I'm just guessing from his accent, he's in the States, where essentially there are big issues within the economics of healthcare provision. And an awful lot of people won't simply be able to afford to even see a doctor in the first place, let alone go ahead and get bankrupting levels of treatment in terms of the cost. But not everywhere is America. And I think a lot of people in the UK seem to think this too, is that America is representative of the entire world. And I noticed this a lot, actually, with the British, because of the way that things are reported in the UK. American events get reported on a daily basis in the UK, but events from, say, Norway or Finland, they never get reported here. Even France very rarely gets reported by comparison. And so essentially, America is representative of the world in people's very limited worldview. But actually, very large parts of the world have socialized healthcare. So it's free at the point of access, such as in the UK and in large parts of Europe. And with socialized healthcare, there is no financial incentive to not find cures. This is absolutely preposterous. The greatest breakthrough ever will be the one where you can actually cure and eliminate the disease. And that's what people actually really want, and that's what the industry wants too. To suggest that everyone in the industry is incentivized to not find a cure is to belittle and demean, and this is coming from his naivety. Take a trip to Southampton General Hospital, where I used to work. I think, if I remember rightly, there was between 6,000 and 8,000 staff that worked there. And everyone there, albeit underpaid and mostly overworked, in all the different disciplines, are doing their best to try and basically do a good job in the varying forms they are, which ultimately is to provide decent care and treatment for the people who are coming under the care of that particular facility. And that is replicated across the planet. What he's intimating is that everybody involved in orthodox healthcare is cold, psychopathic, indifferent, and all in on a grand conspiracy. That is beyond reprehensible, and I think he's in for a shock should he ever get ill. What would he do? Will he go into hospital? No, of course he's in America, so he's going to go into a highly incentivized, built-for-profit system. But that's not what the rest of the world is doing. We've got to get reality in rather than the sort of the generic beliefs that keep getting promulgated. There's this notion that everyone is corrupt, and I don't really I get lost for words, to be honest.
You know, like for example, let's take cancer for example. If somebody has cancer, what do? You know, either they have surgery, right? And then they have surgery, and then they do radiation and chemotherapy, right? Radiation, chemotherapy, obviously very bad for you, completely destroys your body. It's like the nuclear approach, right? You nuke.
Now, this is another one that I hear a lot, is that basically radiation therapy, or radiotherapy as it's conventionally called, and chemotherapy, people don't actually know what they are. They've never seen it, unless they've actually had the treatment themselves or worked in those areas. They don't actually know what those things look like. And so people build up this impression in their head. Mustard gas. They use mustard gas. Yeah, okay, that's definitely not what happens. But the chemical's the same as mustard gas. One of them is analogically similar. And so, yes. But to say they use mustard gas is like to say infectious disease units use horse paste, ivermectin. It just doesn't work that way. Emergency units and anesthetic units use horse tranquilizer, ketamine. General medical units and cardiac units use smack. No, they use diamorphine. These words are used as a pejorative to prejudice the story. So basically, we're the good guys. We only use the bad words about the bad guys. who we're framing to be. It's not what happens. They're bad for the body. Yeah, that's why they're used under extreme medical supervision. Do they destroy the body? They have side effects. That would be realistic. But are people destroyed by it? No, not quite in the way that's being portrayed here, which again is the very, very common narrative. That basically no one dies from cancer, you only die from chemotherapy. That's one of the popular notions that gets put out there.
Everything around the area where you had cancer, hoping that you kill all the cancer cells, like it's this like independent thing that just appeared in your body apropos of nothing, has nothing to do with your like awful lifestyle that you live and your inactivity and your processed foods that you're eating and the fact that you smoke 10 cigarettes a day or 2 packs a day or whatever. It's just this magical thing that happened to your body and oh shucks, you're just unlucky.
Now that was easy to slip by with that one. And again, this is one of those other very common narratives. So what he's suggesting here is that all cancers are results of lifestyle choices. That when you eat badly, live badly, smoke, drink, and all the rest of it, you're going to get cancer. Now, there's no doubt that certain lifestyles lead to a high disposition to some cancers, but that's not going to be true for a lot of cancers. That people who live perfectly healthy, have really good lifestyles, who die prematurely from all sorts of horrible things. Not everything is a result of lifestyle. Sometimes there's the genetic lottery as well. And we certainly know that with breast cancer, where we see now people having preemptive mastectomies to remove all breast tissue because they carry the gene that puts them into the highest risk category and almost certainly guarantees they're going to get cancer later on. There are genetic components, and that is true for pretty much all the cancers as well. So we know, for example, that kidney cancer is very, very common in smokers. But that doesn't mean that kidney cancer, much like lung cancer, is exclusive to smokers. It doesn't have to just be that. And there's an awful lot of things that can happen that are just happens chance. There's people who have got things like mesothelioma because of the job where they have been exposed to asbestos. There's lots of things when people have inadvertent or accidental exposures to things which then put them in high-risk categories.
Genetic, right? Which, like I said, I think is a whole load of shit. And the pharmaceutical companies are incentivized to keep people sick, right? Now, I don't think that there's like some evil man CEO of Pfizer who's like, tenting his fingers thinking about how he's going to like destroy the human race or keep them sick and make billions of dollars. Maybe there is, but I don't think it's quite that planned out. But just the nature of how things have progressed, that's kind of the situation that we have right now. And not only that, right? Like if you have cancer, you actually have like a higher life expectancy if you don't do chemo than if you do chemo and radiation, right? You're expected to live longer. Like I think the average if you do chemo and radiation is like 6 months. And if you don't, it's like 5 years or 20 years or something like that.
Now, again, this is a very popular narrative that you die quicker if you have orthodox treatment, chemotherapy and radiotherapy. You die quicker. And that you'll live a lot longer if you don't have treatment. Statistics, data, evidence, anything to back this up, because that is so unbelievably untrue. I don't even know where to begin. In fact, I'm not even going to bother. That's just something can just be dismissed. Of course, that is absolutely absurd. Now, one of the other issues that comes up is what counts as a cure. When you have something that technically can't be cured because of the nature of it, essentially what you do is if somebody has a neoplasm, a mass appear somewhere, then they can reduce the tumor, they can infiltrate that with various treatments, they can excise it surgically and give systemic treatments like radiotherapy and chemotherapy to reduce that. Now, success is measured by a number of variables. One is the reduction in tumor size, assuming it's a mass as opposed to something like a leukemia, so it's not a hematological issue or a bone marrow issue. We're also then looking at, does it progress? So does it then metastasize to reappear elsewhere? Or does it just stay the same and then therefore there's stability? It's not infiltrating into other organs or into surrounding tissues. Now, if it's managed and basically it's not going anywhere, it's not spreading or anything else, okay, that's a good result. Sometimes it will reduce down to virtually undetectable, if not completely undetectable. Is that a cure? Since the system that produced it, the biological systems, can still actually produce it again. So they have to put a benchmark into how do we measure a cure, and typically it's a 5-year span. So if you are treated successfully, and at 5 years you're still showing the same progressive signs, and there's not a recurrence or resurgence and expansion thereof, then you're being suitably managed, therefore technically treated or cured. But I've never come across anyone use the word cured. In the healthcare systems that I worked in, it's not a thing that's used. We're getting good outcomes, we're getting good results, we're getting good management. The tumors or the thing is stable at the moment. There's no development, and that's a good sign. They are the kind of words that are used. But to say it's a cure, no. Now, the statistics do look at things like life expectancy, how many people are alive at 6 months, a year, 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, and so on. And those things are benchmarks, and the statistical data is maintained for that. He hasn't seen that statistical data very, very clearly. He's just parroting the narrative that everyone else within the alternative therapy community is parroting. And there is no data or basis behind what he is saying here.
Don't quote me on that. But the reason that the numbers get skewed is because you have some people, like let's say you have cancer, you don't change your lifestyle at all, and you don't do chemo, you'll be dead pretty soon, right? So that will drop the average of the people who don't get treatment. But then you have other people who will do their own research and not just trust anything that a doctor says because they went to medical school for 10 years and they don't care about getting a fucking pink ribbon. They want to actually like find a solution for it, and they think for themselves and they research on their own. Those people will wipe it out completely. They'll make the necessary lifestyle changes, and that will raise the average upwards. And obviously,
absolutely beyond preposterous. Now, the other one, this is very common with all the countercultural groups and movements, whether it's the conspiracy nut jobs, the political people, the people going for political intrigue and conspiracy, all the alternative therapy communities. And it's that narrative of do your own research. The doctor went to medical school. He doesn't know what he's talking about. They only blah, blah, blah. Do your own research. Now, what does do your own research equate to? Does it mean rounding up 1,000 case studies of people, screening out for all the variables that could actually explain stuff, doing statistical analysis, actually doing proper research with controls and oversight and publication and peer review? Or is it looking on social media, YouTube, and the internet, looking for stuff that reinforces the pre-existing worldview? I suspect it will be the latter. Do your own research basically is the cry of the conspiracy nut job who doesn't want to take accountability or responsibility for the nonsense that they are putting out there. They basically say, this is not medical advice. I'm not claiming this to be true. As always, do your own research. Yeah. We talk about the post-truth society or the post-truth era that we're in, and where no one knows what the truth is anymore. And no expert is to be trusted, and no one is an expert. Everyone is just part of a grand conspiracy. Yeah, good luck to those people in helping each other with your craziness, I see.
See, those people are in the minority. Yeah, so just one more thing about this whole, like, to wrap it up, I guess. Think for yourself, do your own research and try things on your own, which is, like I make a lot of videos about the snake diet and about fasting. That's one of the things that, Cole has done is he's tested all this stuff on his own. He didn't just like read a bunch of books and say fasting is good, go try it. He did everything on his own. He did his research, he tried it, and he found that it worked. And he's helping people who have cancer, like he's doing all this stuff. He's got his boots on the ground. And I would recommend to you as well, if you have some sort of health issue, obviously fast because it's very good for your body to regenerate itself. But think for yourself, don't just, and this would even apply to anybody that you see on YouTube, right? Don't just take their word for it because they said it and they have X amount of followers, or somebody says that they're popular, or you saw them on TV, or they have a morning show with Oprah or something. Don't take that at face value. Try it out, see if it works. If it works, continue. If it doesn't work, stop. Okay? So that was my little rant about cancer.
Right, so now the question is, if I'm going to try stuff out for myself, supposing I have, just for example, testicular cancer, how am I going to try stuff out for myself and see if it works? People don't realize that things like testicular cancer actually is quite a survivable problem as long as it's caught quickly enough. Check your balls, gentlemen. Simply because it's external to the body. Your balls dangle down on the outside. So infiltration out stays in the local area. So as long as it's caught early enough, then that can be successfully treated, largely by orchidectomy. They whip out one of your bollocks, and that's the end of that. The problem is, if you leave it too long, little bits of that end up in the lymphatic system and into the bloodstream, and then you end up with it coming up the midline of the body. So you end up, it goes to the bowel, comes to the lung, comes up to the lymphatic system here, and to the brain. Different cancers will spread according to different parts of the body, depending on both the type of neoplasm it is, but also where it is in the body. So the secondaries that get thrown off by the originating tumor will be different according to both site and type. Testicular cancer, for example, will come up the midline of the body. So just supposing I'm going to go, right, I'm going to think for myself. What does that even mean when it comes to cancer treatment? Think for yourself, do your own research. Oh, I'm going to starve myself. All right. Did he specify how long for? What, a month? 2 days? How long are we going to starve ourselves for to cure this testicular cancer? And is that really going to make a difference? Now, we know that starvation, temporary starvation, typically of a 72-hour duration, does do interesting things to the immune system. And there's a lot of talk about actually introducing two things into orthodox cancer treatment in the UK. Both of them are problematic, simply because the effect they have on the immune system is superb. And so there are lots of benefits that can be ascertained here. Cold water immersion on a regular basis and periodic 72-hour starvation. All well and good. When you're fit, healthy, muscular, and young, like that gentleman there. But if you're 65, you're elderly, osteoarthritis, you might have reduced mobility. Right, Doreen, we're going to plunge you in the ice pool now. We know you're a bit hungry, but we'll give you something to eat on Saturday. Oh, and we'll do the ice pool again tomorrow. You can see how that works. And herein lies the issue with the conspiratorial NLP, alphabet therapy, alternative therapy scene. They are measuring the cancer patient against themselves, operating from a healthy point of view. They don't realize that actually the majority of people who get these different disorders and diseases, not majority, but a significant percentage of them, are people with pre-existing health concerns, pre-existing debilitation. The disease itself might be very debilitating and so forth. So to do the things that some of these guys suggest is both inhumane, impractical, and it doesn't bloody work, is the other one. Because these are adjunctives to orthodox ongoing treatment and care and support. All of these people are operating from a position of, I'm fit and healthy, all the people I know fit and healthy, I'm going to be fit and healthy forever. I'm going to be young and attractive and muscular forever. Yeah, doesn't last. And also, it doesn't guarantee a healthy older age. Not old age, but older age. It increases the chances, but people get ill for no particular reason that anyone else can identify. And that's what they seem to forget. And the other one is the flippancy by which they talk about these diseases. And they talk about having your boobies chopped off. They've never seen this firsthand. They've never been around, say, on a cancer or rehabilitation ward working with these patients. If you want to see the grimmest fucking thing I've ever did. When I worked in Southampton, I worked at the General Hospital. I lived opposite the Royal Southampton Hospital, virtually right opposite it. And so I used to go over there for canteen quite a lot, simply because it was cheap food and good food. And I used to get a lot of work, bit work. So a couple of the consultants would run late evening surgical sessions for prostate surgery. Now, when they would do that, largely to clear backlist, so they would use the female cancer ward. They would have a side room with 6 patients, and pretty much once a fortnight they would run surgery into the evenings on male patients. They could basically accelerate the treatment people were getting. And I would go over for that evening to do the recovery of those patients. So basically look after them post-operatively. Prostate cancer is grim. It is really grim, and the surgery is really grim, and the post-operative care is grimmer. Was one of the most depressing things I actually did, and I didn't like to do it too often. It was good money, but it was very, very grim. This man and likes of him need to go and work in one of those units for a week and then see how flippant they're going to be about other people's diseases and if they're actually going to claim to cure that. We have in the world of new code NLP, we have one of the leading lights of new code claiming to cure prostate cancer, amongst other cancers too. He's the little angry man, in case anyone wonders. Has he really? Not for one moment has that ever happened. And you're never going to see the video of that patient being interviewed. And in conjunction with looking at the medical file. Because all these people that wheel out, here's the person I helped, I coached this person and they're cancer free. All right, I want to see the medical file. Give me the front page medical summary of that patient and let's have a look at what the doctors say. Then we can actually judge whether your magic words, because that's all it is. You don't have cancer, you're cancering. You're cured. It's magic words. And it's wishful thinking. Anyway, that's all. I'm going to stop ranting right there. I've rabbited on way too long. As always, if you have any comments, any additions, any corrections, anything I've said here that actually is incorrect, it's been a long time since I worked in orthodox healthcare, do please put me right. Always happy to receive that feedback. And please click that like button. Thank you for watching this long.